Now, jumping over to the other side of this game, one guy that a different kind of distractions. The guy that Bill O'Brien's going to be scheming up against, Dan Lanning, the defensive coordinator for Georgia. Of course, he is moving on to Oregon as soon as this game kicks off. The new head coach of the Ducks. But what's the storyline? It's something everybody and their mother's talking about heading into this Alabama Georgia game. Gotta get pressure on Bryce Young. That was something that Georgia struggled to do, and it certainly seems like the teams that have had success against Alabama have been able to get that pressure on Bryce Young, have been able to take advantage of Alabama's offensive line, yet Georgia was unable to do that in the SEC championship game. So Dan Lanning was twice asked basically the same question twice, just worded a little bit differently. How do you get to Bryce Young? What went wrong in that SEC championship game? Let's kick it over to Dan Lanning.
You dealt with this some at the Orange Bowl, but obviously the no sacks against Alabama last time, and a lot of the narrative was that Georgia didn't try to pressure the quarterback that much. But I certainly don't look at it as educated as you do, but it looked like that you guys were really trying some stuff to get to him and just couldn't get to him. So obviously, how important is it to get pressure on Bryce Young this time? And what about the whole factor of, it's just a month later. Do you do a lot of different things, or do you try to do the same things better?
Yeah, ultimately we want to create pressure. We want to be able to get after Bryce. As far as how we're going to do it, I don't want to give away all our secrets yet, Chip. Hopefully we can wait till after the game to figure that out. But yeah, we want to generate pressure, and certainly there's a lot of different ways you can do that. He's really good at avoiding the rush, and they did some unique things to protect him. So we have to attack it a little bit differently, but how we do that, there's a lot of different ways we can do it.
Dan, not to relitigate the pass rush strategy against Alabama too much, but it seems like you all had a choice of do what some other teams had done against Alabama to success earlier, or kind of stick with what had worked for you all the first 12 games. Is that too simplistic a way to sum it up, or is that close to what you saw it as?
I don't know. I think we watched film pretty close and try to see what's successful against the team. And I think they had good answers and played better than we played that day. I think we're always been really pretty multiple and have a variety of ways that we can attack teams. I think we've carried that into every game. So if you go back and look at that game, we tried to attack in a lot of different ways, and they were more successful than us. I think we'll always you got to have answers, and they had better answers that day than we did, but we'll build off of that.
So Dan Lanning certainly seems to have confidence that his unit will be able to get to Bryce Young in this game. Does make the note, that's kind of been the X factor with Bryce Young. I don't think they want him running the ball a ton during the regular season, but national championship game, as was it Dan Fouts and the Waterboy, last game of the season, can't hold anything back.
Last game of the year, Brent, can't hold anything back now.
I know.
I mean, you got to imagine Alabama's going to let Bryce Young cut loose, and they may have to, because I really do think Georgia's going to have more success than they did last time. I mean, hell, you basically got to sell out to get to Bryce Young, and it certainly seems like Dan Lanning's got confidence that his unit can get back here. But how will Bryce Young make him pay with his arm, with his leg in the national championship? That could be the difference in the ball game. And last thing from Dan Lanning here, interesting. Asked about the pressure on the Georgia Bulldogs. We all know 1980. How many times we've seen that on Twitter the last 20 years. There's a lot on Georgia's shoulders heading into this championship game. Any extra pressure? Not on Dan Lanning, he says.
Hey there, Coach. It seems like in the past few years, few people have been able to solve Alabama, and, LSU and Clemson have had their chances to get one over Alabama. But does it feel like there's almost this accumulated pressure on Georgia, given how many swings this team has had against Alabama in consequential games, and also just the added pressure that it's happening again in a national championship, and, there's that whole 41 years thing hanging over your head too?
Yeah, none of that's hanging over our head, Lane. At the end of the day, we want to go perform to the best of our ability. We want to execute at a really, really high level. But ultimately, it's not about them; it's about us. We want to go play our best game, and if we play our best game, we feel confident that that we can win that game. That being said, they're a really good team, and they deserve all the credit in the world for everything they've done over time. but so are we. So we expect a good game. We expect a tough challenge. But there's no more pressure outside the room than the pressure that we put on ourselves to perform at a high level. I know that. I know how much our players care, how much our coaches care. So we got to have a great plan, and we got to go out there and execute. And I think we can do that.
Of course, maybe that's a little bit easier to say when you got one foot in Eugene, Oregon, and out the door. He's not going to have to hear about all off season if the Georgia Bulldogs lose. Of course, he'll be a legend should he win, and hell, they'll welcome him back into Atlanta in the season opener there when Oregon and Georgia face off if Georgia finds a way to win this football game. But hey, maybe the coach that's got the most on his shoulders in this football game, Todd Monken, the Georgia offensive coordinator, got to get Stetson Bennett going. This is three times, twice this season, but three times Todd Monken, Stetson Bennett have had a crack at Alabama's defense, Nick Saban's defense here. And, I don't want to say they failed the test each time because they've had the first half lead in Tuscaloosa. They had a solid outing in the SEC championship game. It was really Georgia's defense that let them down in that second quarter before, it was the second halves that have plagued Stetson Bennett and Todd Monken's offense here. That is something that Todd Monken kind of harps on, getting Stetson Bennett up for 4 quarters of action against Alabama. If Georgia is finally going to win this national championship, it's going to take a 4-quarter effort, no doubt about it. So here's what Todd Monken had to say about it.
Todd, as great as Stetson was the other night, as really good as he's been, there's obviously 2 games against Alabama that are kind of blot on his resume. Do you see anything kind of common in those games that is instructive about this one, or did you see those 2 games as just kind of separate from the rest of what Stetson does?
Well, I mean, I don't see it as that those 2 games are going to predict the future. I don't see it that way. I see it as, he's played, I don't know how many games as starting quarterback, and like any player, they've had their moments where they haven't played up to what they believe their standard to be, or we believe that standard to be. It just so happens to have come in the second half against the team we're about to play. But, we just need to understand that the first 2 halves of each of those games was outstanding. And I've said that before. He has everything we need to be successful offensively. And our issues with turnovers aren't his issue in particular. That's everybody in this country. If you turn the ball over, you're not going to win, no matter how you do it. The first turnover a year ago was a batted ball that was out of his control. The second interception was a tip pass on an in cut that went directly to him. Now the third one was a poor decision. So the bottom line is I can do it better as a coordinator to put him in better position to be successful. He understands that. Our team understands that. So, I expect him to play well, just like I did last week.
And again, the theme, all these guys basically asked about it, but again, Todd Monken's got experience in the NFL, many years there at the game's highest level. He knows what it's like to play a team twice in the same season. So maybe that gives a slight advantage on the offensive side of the ball. Same deal for Alabama with Bill O'Brien, of course. But here's Todd Monken on his experience in similar situations here that we're going to get Monday night in the national championship game.
Yeah, kind of in that vein, Coach, you have an extensive NFL background, playing another team in close proximity just a few weeks later. Tell me a little bit about the decisions on what to change, what to do different, what to keep the same, and, maybe have that same thing seem different and that kind of stuff. Seems pretty complicated.
Well, you're right. It is a little bit different. You do get that in the NFL with your division teams where you play them twice, and sometimes you can play them relatively close together like this is. And, and we played them last year, so we've got enough film on what they want to do, and they're not going to change. They're successful for a reason for what they do, and so are we. I mean, if you're constantly changing what you do and your identity, I don't think you're going to be very good at anything. So obviously we take from the things that we did well and build on that, and the things we didn't do as well. And obviously there's calls that we had that in both games, or other opportunities that we didn't get called. So we're looking forward to the opportunity and the shot at it, and they're going to get our best. I can promise you that.